The knockout stages of Euro 2024 are finally here, which means one thing for fantasy football: we've got unlimited transfers, so let's go and build that ultimate draft. Now, before we go and take a look at my team, I just want to say that we are super close to 5,000 subscribers. So if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and of course the main one, being subscribed to help us hit that milestone. Now, I think it's important to kind of take a look before we go and do any team kind of building, is to do a little bit of planning and kind of see which teams, in my opinion, we should be focusing on. Now, obviously, a lot of people have different strategies for this part of the game. Some people still have their wildcard available, and if you're like me, you've already played it, so you have to be a little bit more precautious, I'd say. You can't load up on some of the teams that have easy fixtures in the round of 16. You've got to be a little bit more proactive with your team planning. Think about which teams are probably going to progress longer in the tournament rather than just solely focusing on these round of 16 games. So I think there's two ways to kind of devise this. There's obviously the first way, like if you are wildcarding in match day 5, you are pretty much with this draft just going to be targeting the teams with the easy fixtures in the round of 16. So the likes of Spain, Portugal, England at some extent. Obviously, Austria are a pretty decent pick. Probably gamble on some Turkey players. Netherlands. These are the teams that you're probably going to be looking at because you've only got to hold them for 1 week. Then you can wildcard and again reset that team going into the quarterfinals and the latter stages. If, like me though, you've already played that wildcard, we've got to think, like I said, a little bit more proactively, finding teams which we think are going to do exceptionally well in this tournament. We'll come on to look at some data which I think could be quite useful for people like me in this other predicament. But off the bat, kind of without looking at any data, I definitely think, you know, the right-hand side is the easier side of the draw. So obviously picking kind of stronger favourites from that side makes a little bit more sense. So the likes of England, Holland, Austria to some extent, these teams that, you know, have some pretty decent assets to go and pick up and also have quite a high probability of just progressing just from, you know, my kind of football based predictions, not looking at any data so far. On the left hand side, it's a lot more difficult to kind of say. Obviously the likes of Portugal and Spain, they have an easier fixture in the round of 16, but after that they're probably playing one of France or Belgium or Germany and Denmark. It does get a little bit tricky at that point, but that's where I think if, like me, you're on this strategy, you are going to be looking at data like this, kind of seeing which teams are going to be progressing further in the tournament. And as you can see, this is coming from Opta, and England have a 39% probability of reaching the final for Euro 2024. So off the basis of that, I'm already starting to think 2, maybe even 3 England assets at that point. 3 is probably a stretch because how disappointing England have been in the group stage, especially from an attacking standpoint. So I'm probably looking more at that double up in defence. We've also got Spain with a 26% probability. Now, they've been a lot more appealing on the eye and have some really nice assets across the whole pitch. So again, probably 2 to 3 for them. Germany at 23, France at 21, Portugal at 21, and Netherlands at 20 as well. So again, some teams where we probably want to be picking up 1 to 2 assets on there. And then as you can see down the bottom, we've got Belgium at 4%. Opta is not fancying them to go any further really in this competition, so probably worth avoiding the likes of Lukaku, Castells, Fas, KDB, in my opinion. If you're on this strategy, you've already played the wild card. Teams like Austria probably worth a little bit of a gamble because they are on this nicer side of the draw, and you do feel that potentially there could be some upsets there. Same with Italy and same with Switzerland. I think 1 or 2 of these assets could be a, you know, pretty decent pickup, but again, probably not looking at overly kind of heavily overloading our team with these players. However, the teams at the top part, I definitely think we should be considering more, and this is kind of what this draft is based off. This draft will be built for people that have already played their wild card in the group stages. Obviously though, I will kind of tailor some picks to potentially, you know, maybe kind of alter some of them if you've already played it, and maybe if I've got time, I'll do another video. But let's dive in to today's draft. Diving straight into the team, let's obviously talk through the goalkeepers. First off, we do have Jordan Pickford and Pence from Austria. I'll start with Jordan Pickford. England have had some of the best XG conceded at this tournament. I think that is probably the standout kind of appeal for going for England players, definitely from a defensive side. They haven't really conceded much in XG conceded. They've been very, very dull to watch, but have only conceded 1 goal so far in the tournament against Denmark, and it was a long-range effort, didn't accumulate too much XG. So for me, defensively, and with the run-in that England have potentially got and the kind of style and disappointing kind of nature of Southgate's tactics, I definitely think from a defensive standpoint, England defenders probably very, very appealing. And with England being on that right side of the draw, I do feel Jordan Pickford could be our goalkeeper all the way up to the final with that 39% probability of a clean sheet. The other goalkeeper we've gone for is Pence. He's 4 million. A nice little budget pick, to be honest. It allows us to potentially go and get some of these more premium potential assets further up the field. But with this team, I've actually got quite a little bit of money left. I know there are potentially price changes coming in tonight. I'm filming this on Wednesday evening, so there is potential price changes coming into effect tonight. We're going to have to see how they work because no one's entirely sure which players are going up, which players are not. So let's wait and just see on that one. But obviously for 4 million, if you are a little bit stretched for budget, I think Pence could be a very, very decent pickup. Austria do have Turkey. Then they'll probably face Holland if we're being realistic here. But for 4 million, pretty decent pickup, I can't lie, if it does have to come down to a budget pick, to be honest. And again, Austria are on that right side of the draw, and if they do get obviously a little bit of luck, again, they could be one of those teams that does progress to the semis, maybe as a dark horse could even make it all the way to the final. Right, let's start off with our defenders. We're going to go for Dani Carvajal, a nice fixture for Spain in the round of 16 against Georgia. He's probably been one of the standout picks in terms of defenders. I think Cucurella as well is a very, very good asset to go for. It looks like he could be the starting left back for this Spanish side and has been exceptional with those old ball recoveries that we're all so loving so much, to be honest. Well, I am anyway. I don't know about you guys, but I think the only problem with Cucurella is the fact that Grimaldo had a really good final game for Spain in the group games. So I think potentially we might see some early substitutions or maybe potentially some rotation if Spain feel that they need that little bit more of an attacking player against teams like Georgia. But we're going to go with Dani Carvajal. Again, Spain were the second highest team, predicted to kind of obviously reach the final. They've been very, very good on the eye as well. So I'm very, very happy with that pickup. Next, we're going to go for Theo Hernandez. Again, a player who has accumulated a lot of expected goal involvement across this tournament. One of the highest amongst defenders so far in the campaign. Obviously, not the easiest fixture against Belgium, but I do think Belgium so far haven't really been at the races. Again, though, I will wait to see kind of from Elvenify and FPLT Rob. I think I said that incorrect. Rob T FPL. That's the way around it is. I'll wait to see the clean sheet data and which kind of standout teams are from that, and then maybe potentially readjust. But I think he's definitely been one of the players that has caught the eye. Ball recovery numbers have been pretty disappointing, but from an attacking standpoint has been very, very good, and probably unfortunate not to get an attacking return in the group stage so far. Our next defender is going to be Nathan Ake. Obviously, with Netherlands having a 20% probability of reaching the final, I've definitely gone for them. They face Romania in the round of 16, and then one of Austria and Turkey in the quarterfinals. So you would, as a Holland kind of, potential fan, you'd have to say, well, we've got a good, strong chance here of at least making the semi-finals. So we're back in Ake. I think he's been excellent at left back as well. Okay on the ball recoveries, but again, that expected goal involvement has been pretty decent from him. Holland, performance-wise, haven't quite been at the races, but I definitely think they will be when the data does come out. One of the top teams for clean sheet expected odds. They'll be one of the top teams to keep a clean sheet for that. Moving on to our final defender in the starting lineup, it is going to be Mark Gahey. I've fallen in love with him this tournament. He's been probably England's best player across the entire group stage. As you can see, 21 points for him. That's the same as Ilkay Gundogan so far this tournament. It's mainly been made up of clean sheet points and ball recovery points. The man has been an absolute machine, and you definitely can see that England, defensively, they've got it switched on. They're conceding very, very limited XG conceded. That's why I've gone for the double up of England defenders, to be honest, because I feel very confident that England, if they are going to concede, it's probably only going to be one, and Mark Gahey can definitely make those points back up with the ball recoveries, in my personal opinion. Moving on to our final defender, it is going to be Akanji. Again, has been a little bit of a monster picking up ball recoveries and man of the matches. They play Italy, a team that I've not been overly impressed with. I thought Switzerland did incredibly well in their final group game against Germany. Maybe the German side did take their foot off the gas for that final game, probably thought they were already through and kind of didn't really have to think about that final game, but Switzerland definitely came to town, and I think Akanji has been one of the standout performers for them so far in this tournament, so he makes our side. Moving on into our midfield, we're going to start off with one of the top scorers at the tournament. It is Musiala. Obviously, Germany, not the easiest fixture against Denmark, but I definitely don't think it's the same Denmark team we've seen for the past two international tournaments, to be honest. I definitely think they could be a team that could be beaten. And I think as well, with some of the defensive injuries that are starting to mount up, obviously the suspension to Tar and Rudiger missing some training sessions, I think defensively Germany could be a little bit weak. We'll have to wait and see on the expected data. That potentially might swing it back in that favour, but I think with those injuries and suspension, I think I'm leaning more towards the attacking players rather than the defensive players for Germany. That is why we've gone for Musiala and İlkay Gündoğan. I think both have been exceptional across the whole group stage. I think Gündoğan has been one of the standout picks of the tournament as well. He plays more minutes than Musiala as well and does give me a captain on that first game. I think they play the first game if I've kind of looked at it correctly. So I definitely think, again, he could be one of those players that goes and picks the armband up for me. Obviously, there is a big lack of England midfielders in this team, but again, I just can't back England in any attacking department at the moment. It's been very, very frustrating to watch, very, very disappointing from an eye test perspective and from a fan perspective as well. So I just really can't back England, and I've gone for the Germany double up in midfield because at least they've done something. And I think against Denmark, I think they'll surprise some people. But let's wait and see on that one. Moving on to our next midfielder, it is going to be Nico Williams. Obviously 9 points, he's one of the lowest point scoring players in this team, but it gives me a nice way into that Spain attack. They've got Georgia, like I said, for the round of 16 game. He's nice and cheap. And you know what? He's playing in a front three and he's down as a midfielder. It's probably one of the only players they've got wrong positionally wise. Everyone else that features like this is down as a forward. I know a lot of people are probably going to be screaming at me right now, where is Yamal? I just think there's better forward options, and Nico Williams gives me that option to get into that Spanish attack with a nice fixture in the round of 16. I think it could be a potential differential pickup in my personal opinion. Moving on to our final midfielder within the starting lineup, it is going to be Bruno Fernandes. Obviously didn't feature too much today in Portugal's game against Georgia, but they were pretty much through. I think the second game was obviously where he shone. First game was okay. Portugal, they are on that wrong side of the draw, but have a nice, again, round of 16 fixture. And again, as we saw, they have a strong probability of progressing throughout this tournament. And prior to today's performance, obviously there was a lot of rotation. They were one of the standout picks that a lot of people were obviously tipping to be potentially favourites or even reach the knockout stages, or the latter stages, should I say, of this international tournament. So I definitely think Bruno Fernandes is going to be in a lot of people's teams. Finishing up our final midfielder, it's going to be Sabitzer, obviously the former Manchester United player, now Dortmund player. He's been an absolute menace in the Champions League game this season with ball recoveries and attacking returns as well. Scored in matchday 3. I think it's a toss-up between him and Baumgartner. Obviously Austria, they are on that nicer side of the draw, so I definitely think they're one of the teams I am willing to take a few punts on. And Sabitzer and Baumgartner for me are probably the standout players from these two sides. Sabitzer's taken it for me because he's had more ball recoveries and better expected data across the group stage. But I think if you went for either option, you're definitely going to get some potential attacking returns, in my opinion. Right, let's finish up. Let's take a look at our forwards. Let's start off with the first two in the squad. Obviously, we've got Kylian Mbappe. I think he's probably going to be still one of the most highly owned players in the game. Obviously, they're not on the nicer side of the draw, but he has accumulated 2.6 expected goal involvement across the whole of this tournament. I know he had his penalty, but he missed one game because of a broken nose and still managed to accumulate all this data. France, I feel as well, have been super unfortunate not to actually score a goal in open play. Obviously, a lot of people putting these statistics out that they haven't scored in open play, But I think it is probably a matter of time, to be honest. And I feel this Belgium team, they didn't look good today. They didn't look overly impressive in the first game either. I definitely think they could be a team that France just wallop. It could be just one of those fixtures that's kind of build up as this big fixture, and then France go and wallop them, and Kylian Mbappe has a great performance. I also think he is captaincy material as well. Plays on a different day from a lot of the other potential captain options as well, which is always something we're looking for in this Euro fantasy game. The other forward is going to be Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, I'm not 100% sure on this one, but the round of 16 game is just too appetizing for me. And I definitely think if, obviously, Portugal go out, maybe in the latter stages, and England potentially go through, or Spain, you've got people like Morata, you've obviously got maybe Griezmann if you want to go for that double up in French defence. So there's a lot of good forward options if Portugal do fail to obviously progress. So I think going for Ronaldo as a nice placeholder to keep that money up there is a very, very good strategy to go for. Obviously, it's not been the best group stage for him, picked up a booking in today's game as well, but I'm still feeling pretty bullish on Cristiano Ronaldo. And then our final player, as you can see on the bench, is going to be Cody Gakpo. Now, originally I had Lukaku when I was kind of just half-arsed planning this, but obviously they've now picked up France, so that's probably not going to be one I'm going to touch. And after today's performance, I never want to see that man in my team again. He is the Antichrist. I'm really, really done with him, as you can tell. But Gakpo has been pretty impressive for me over the course of the tournament. The data-wise has been pretty decent. He's scored quite a few of his goals from outside the box. But I think he's the standout performer and the standout attacker from this Dutch side as well. They are on the right side of this draw. They've got Romania, who've kind of limped their way, in my opinion, to the round of 16. Then they face one of Austria or Turkey. So again, I'm feeling quite bullish on Holland. They haven't looked impressive, but I think Ake and Gakpo have been their standout players, and that is why I'm going to back those two. Let me know what you think of the draft down in the comment section below. If you've got any questions about your team as well, get them in the comments. But thank you very much for watching today, and good luck in Matchday 4.